everyone. Welcome to Ask Bhavana, a podcast where we debunk common myths and stigmas around mental health while discussing some commonly talked about topics and also entertaining issues that are often brushed under the carpet. So, if you're somebody who wishes to learn more about mental health, or are a psychology student, or an aspiring psychologist, this podcast has something for everyone. I'm your host, Fiza, and we have a very special guest today here with us who's a sex educator, a relationship coach, and a counselor. So, whether it is relationship or marriage counseling or related to parenting and sex education, she can provide you with one-stop solution for all your concerns. We have chosen today's topic, keeping her expertise in mind. So please welcome Miss Jaya Jaiswal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fiza, for having me. It's
Thank
wonderful to
you.
be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with us. So, should we dive right in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, as you know, our today's topic is relationships and intimacy. And, Jaya, often we've seen that whenever we talk about intimacy, the first thing that generally comes to mind is physical intimacy. You
Yes.
know, so could you define what exactly constitutes intimacy for our audience?
Intimacy in itself is a very broad context. Like if you see nowadays on internet, you can see a whole lot of content on physical intimacy and emotional intimacy and spiritual intimacy. So, but what I feel more than focusing on what type of intimacy, what it is, first, it is very important to understand where intimacy first comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because what happens is, how have you seen as a child, how have you seen your parents interacting, how have you seen they dealing the fights,
Mm-hmm.
have you seen them loving each other,
Mm-hmm.
what has been their way of expressing their love.
Mm-hmm.
Some express it with food, some express it with hugs, but hugs and kisses were not that common those days.
Right.
Yeah, so intimacy varies from a different context of people through generations as well. It shifts. So if you see what physical intimacy is, with which most people like to see as more of a sexual intimacy, so
Mm-hmm.
physical intimacy can be just being together, holding hands, cuddling and pampering each other,
Mm-hmm.
and just being there for you, taking care of each other. That all constitutes physical intimacy. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what the sexual part is, the sexual intimacy is something where you are intimate with someone physically, sexually, romantically.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when we go to the broader context of what intimacy is, understanding why intimacy is something we need to work on is the most talked about topic, intimacy. What I have seen is, we are not talking about how to build body confidence. This is something very important which lack in all sort of intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
the basically the physical and the sexual part, because
Right.
we have not been trained to be that expressive, as we haven't seen our parents hugging each other or just giving a pat on also on the back, or just
Mm-hmm.
appreciating each other. It has been like expressing your love through food. Like food is a very the still date I have seen many families that to express, like to give a party through a party, or like feeding someone is their way of, that's their love language maybe.
Right.
Yeah. So if more than what is intimacy, it's better to understand how intimacy works. Because
Ah.
whenever, if I see, when I come, like people come to me for counseling, most of us has been um, not been body positive, or have been commented on our bodies for not being like fair enough, for not being tall enough, for being thin enough, for something or the other. The people around us, our neighbors, our parents, have always been commenting on our bodies. Something or
Right.
the other is not okay. Okay, you don't look like your mother, you don't look like your father, or you're just too dark. These comments keep coming, and this is how a perception becomes. This is how a belief system forms. So when we
Right.
hear such comments from each and every uh, level of our growth. Say if we are going to school, we hear this. Even we are at home, we hear this. Even if we are going to a party, we hear this. The first thing, if you, as an adult also, if you go to a party, what was the first reaction people say? It's
Yeah, you
how good you look or how bad you look. It's like कितनी मोटी हो गई है, क्या कराया स्किन पे, बहुत अच्छी लग रही है. It's the first
right.
impression. What you look is, it's their face that reveals what they are thinking about you. So we perceive who we are in the eyes of the others, how people see us.
True. Absolutely. I think it's much at a deeper level that how our conditioning, our belief system goes a long way in establishing body positivity and a healthy, intimate,
Yeah.
definition of healthy definition of intimacy,
Yeah.
where we are able to segregate, okay, what is physical and intimacy and how to be comfortable in sexual intimacy in
That's
a
right.
physical relationship with our partners. But then, unfortunately, yes, as you said, that our belief systems get so, uh, conditioned by these subtle gestures, such latent statements.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that this in turn impacts the, forging and maintenance of healthy intimacy?
So the very basic thing is, when we talk about intimacy, is our relationship with our own bodies has to be very confident. Most of us don't have it. We need to, it's a skill that we need to learn and develop. And it shows up in your personality also, the overall personality, overall grooming and everything. So when we talk about body positivity or being confident in our bodies, which we were never appreciated for who we were, and we were always commented and sarcastically, people used to comment on how you're supposed to be looking or be in that context. So the body insecurity is the biggest thing that pops up when you talk about intimacy. When people reach out to me, the body insecurity is the biggest thing in the dating world, or when people get in the hookup culture, everyone is talking about intimacy. Basically, the intimacy is more connected with the sexual intimacy, which people are more willing to know about or talk about or want to explore why these things happen. So basically, it's our relationship with our bodies. Like if you see a woman, say most of the time, what happens is it's the man who wants it and has the pressure to give it also to the woman. They feel it's my responsibility as a man to be a provider and to give her the satisfaction. Okay, but when it comes to women, it's a very common thing which most men say, that I want it, but my partner doesn't want it, or she doesn't like it, or she doesn't cooperate. So the first thing to understand is, why does your partner doesn't understand or want to go for it? Okay,
Right.
because their relationship with their own bodies is not like how a man's relationship is with their own body. So when a
Mm.
man, when boys are growing up, they generally fondle with their genitals. They play, they start masturbating way before even people can think of, right? So they build up a relationship, positive relationship with their body. But somehow if someone is caught,
Mhm.
like if a parent enters and they have been shamed, so that stays with them throughout the relationship, and it all shows up in the relationship itself.
Right.
Because you will have a body insecurity, you will have this context that sex is something very shameful. So sex is
Mhm.
something which shouldn't be talked about,
Mhm.
or it's a sin. Like many people say, masturbation is a sin, but
Mhm.
body needs, it's the body's requirement, and the flow of sexual energy needs to be released. And that's where they say that, even though it's a sin, yes, people assume, but I'm doing it, and they have a guilt also.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of emotion. So being confident with our own bodies is very important. Like the couples, when men come with issues like ED and PE, these are very common, and these are most of the time it's psychological than it's actually physically something wrong with them. It's
Right.
more of a mental training which they have trained watching porn. They're comparing their bodies to porn stuff, or comparing their bodies to trainers. Like many things they are starting. Like porn industry is a $1 million industry, and they make you feel bad about your own body.
Absolutely.
So now when it comes to a woman's body, women do not explore the bodies. If you see a man's aspect, they are very comfortable with their body. They have explored with their body. They know what they like it. They know how to uh, self pleasure them. But when it comes to a woman's body, their relationship with their own body is it's not positive, because they have been themselves conditioned through years, through generations, that this is something you shouldn't be talking about. This is something only for procreation. This is not something for pleasure. This is not
Right.
something for enjoyment. This is only for procreation. And that is why, if you see in most couples, women after getting pregnant, they stop getting physical with their partners, as if
Mm.
having sex was the only reason to just get pregnant and procreate, because that has been their belief system.
Right.
Because
That.
if you are even vocal about like you wanting it, many times it's the husbands who slut shame the wives for wanting it,
Mm.
right? So the woman, when for a woman to be intimate fully with you, it's very important for her to feel safe in her own body. Because if you see, every woman has gone through some sort of male gaze, or molestation, or assault, or being wrongly touched, right? And that shuts their body down. Whenever they hear cases like 𝐼𝐻𝐸 or the recent 𝐼𝐺 incidents, the body in itself shuts itself down, and that is why sex becomes very painful for them, and they develop something called vaginismus, where the body in itself, to protect you, shuts itself down, and it's very difficult to penetrate, and it's a very uh, painful. Like many people also reach out because they feel that my wife is feeling a lot of pain, and that is why I'm not able to have sex. Like obviously your personal relationship with your partner gets disrupted and spoiled and for how long someone is going to wait.
Right.
Like, even if you communicate with someone is going through, and reaching out to doctors also is a big taboo for people
Right.
to talk about it. So what is the problem? Just saying that I'm having painful sex. Like people have also normalized sexual intercourse as it's okay. Everybody goes through it. But if you see, actually, sex is not supposed to be painful.
Mm.
There are
Right.
other contexts attached to it, is the virginity. There's something else also, like whether you have been sexually active or not, whether do you bleed or not. These are all misconceptions, but people don't want to believe it, because through ages they have been told this, and somehow it has been deeply embedded in them.
Right.
Right? So when we talk about our relationship with our bodies, we as women haven't seen our genitals also.
Right.
We don't know the anatomy of our own genitals. If you see, there was a
Right.
lady, she has been a parent of 2 children, and she didn't know where did she bleed from. So a married woman who doesn't know where she bleeds, so how much do you think she knows about her own body? So until and
Absolutely.
unless you know about your own body, how will you explain the other person what is doable, what is that you like, or what turns you on, or what you don't like? It
Absolutely.
just simply becomes a duty to give
Right.
more than the pleasure and enjoyment. That is why they perform it as a duty, and they pull themselves back because they don't enjoy it. And what the sex education comes for men is through porn, which doesn't show how emotion are important for a woman, how you need to emotionally connect to a woman before getting physical with
Right.
her. The little gestures of caring, giving attention, validating, acknowledging all she has been doing for you. These are things very important for a woman to receive it, to open up,
Right. So
be
can we?
intimate. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
So what we can do as females to be okay with their own genitals is at least take a mirror and see down there, see what genital parts you have. There are many women who hate their bodies, who
Right.
simply hate their bodies because might be because they are fat, they are dark, they're not they're petite, for many different reasons. So until and unless you develop that positive relationship with your body, it is so difficult to open up with someone else and be intimate with someone else because you have to be comfortable in your own body. And that's
Absolutely.
something everybody is not talking about because intimacy, the core, very basics of being intimate with someone comes from here, our relationship with our own body.
Right. So, I mean, what I hear is that emotional aspects, emotional health, mental health, and our environment around us, our conditioning, all this has a really important role to play, when we are forging intimacy in relationships.
Yeah.
And I mean, would it be like right to say that physical intimacy and emotional intimacy, they are mutually inclusive? They
Yes.
cannot exist in isolation?
Like they have been existing in isolation because what happens is, like, if you see just physical, I'm talking about the sexual intimacy and the emotional. The physical
Mhm.
intimacy, it's like just holding your hand and just walking through a beach. It's just you being close to your partner. Now close doesn't mean being sexual.
Right,
That's physical intimacy. It could be
right.
you holding your hand and walking. It could be you just sitting beside each other and reading or doing your own whatever, reading or work, anything. Just the
Mhm.
present in itself makes you feel special, makes you feel you are there with someone. That's the physical intimacy.
Right,
Yeah. So cuddling and just hugging, kissing, these are all parts of physical intimacy.
right.
Okay. And when it comes to sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy is the part that has always been neglected. Being emotionally intimate with a partner is very important, and this is where men pull themselves back because it seems very difficult for a man to be vulnerable. They don't want to be vulnerable. They
Right.
feel that it's just the being intimate or having sexual intercourse is just 2 minutes act and go dive deep and just finish off in 2 minutes. But for a
Right.
woman, the body is different, and the way they experience sex in itself is also different. How they perceive, like if you see, men are more visually aroused,
Hmm.
women are more auditory and emotionally aroused. Auditory as in they like to hear things about themselves. Oh, you look so good. You look pretty in this dress. Where did you buy this dress? You need to make them, like, they need to hear good things about themselves to feel better for themselves. They need that acknowledgement, that validation from the person whom they are wanting to be with.
Right.
Because what happens is even they feel I'm a little bulging from the here, or I don't like I have a stretch marks here. So these are the concerns which everybody has, even a man has, even a woman has. But the beauty standards in the marketing industry has been such that standards for
Mm.
a woman is very high. You have
Right.
to be a certain way. You have to be this
Yeah.
way, to be a certain way, look good, or be like to be called that you are beautiful or you are good looking. That
Yeah.
standard is always increasing. You have to be thinner, you have to be fairer, you have to have a flawless skin. But if you see in real life, nobody has flawless skin.
Absolutely.
It is supposed to have hairs, moles, pigmentation, dark circles. These are quite common, but these are not acceptable nowadays because everything is so filter based.
Absolutely. Like, so this, reminds me of this one book. So, our very own, celebrity nutritionist, Miss Rujita Divakar, she's written a book which is titled as Women and the Weight Loss Tamasha. So, I'm yet to get my hands on that book, but I can, by the title of it, say that it definitely talks about how insecure women are in their bodies,
How
and
complex we are.
how complex we are, and how we should, just let it go, not hold that flab in front of our nutritionist and say, oh, I need to reduce fat from here, you know. So a lot more generosity, a lot more self-love, a lot more, understanding of our own selves or of our own body, can go, in fact, would it be right to say, in a long way, in building a good relationship with yourself as well as your partner,
Yeah,
because ultimately you can't pour from an empty cup.
exactly, exactly.
So, like, you spoke about vulnerability. So, what is the relationship between, vulnerability, mental health, and intimacy? And how can we embrace it?
So vulnerability is sometimes when someone accepts you, the deepest, darkest, and ugliest part of you, and still chooses to be with you. And you cannot be vulnerable with each and every person. You have to have the deep connection where the person understands you being in that situation. It had been so hard. Obviously, exposing yourself in front of someone emotionally, like being emotionally naked nowadays is more difficult than being physically naked.
Right, yes.
So you are ripping yourself and still showing that part of you, and the person who still chooses to be with you, knowing that these are the bizarre things you have. That is how you develop intimacy. That's
Hmm.
the deeper level of, these are not surface level intimacy, these are deeper level intimacy. And for
Right,
long-term relationship, this is what people crave. Even men crave. Like many times they don't know how to, men don't know how to be intimate because there is no role model for them to see how intimacy is and how to be, because that's the only thing they have known through a porn. There has been
right,
no idol to whom they can look up to and see, yeah, this is someone I need to be.
right.
Just I recall that one of the movies of Raja Rani, I don't remember, this Alia Bhatt and Ranveer Singh, where she said, मुझे नहीं पता था कि छोटू को छोटू बोलना is body shaming.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, and मोटू को मोटू बोलना is also a body shaming. But
right,
because घर में इतना चीज, we have normalized these things that it just comes voluntary and we don't even think about saying, like think about it before saying it, that how it might
right,
impact the other person in front of us. It has
right,
been normalized in such a manner in every household, every
right,
Indian household. It's a very common thing. Chotu, whoever you see has is a short hair is Chotu, and whoever
right.
is a bit plump is Motu.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in every locality or a neighborhood, you'll find one Chotu and one Motu.
Right. That's the that's the jodi, you can't really detach from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
this brings me to my next question. Like, you know, uh, all of this can actually take so much toll on our mental health.
Right.
And of course, not only this, but we are seeing that world today is a little, I would say, unkind. And there are a lot of stressors around us, and problems like we are sitting on the second epidemic when we say, we talk about depression and anxiety. So, how does one's mental health, impact in the long run, that, will they be able to hold and forge good intimacy with their partners or not?
First, we need to communicate how are we feeling to our partners. Like hiding your emotions and feelings to your partner is not going to help you in any way.
Right,
So even if you're not feeling good, not feeling okay, if you're having any sensation, any tingling sensation, or you're feeling a lethargic, just talk it out to your partner. Many times
right,
it could be just simply the work stress. Majority
right,
of the time, it's the work stress and the lifestyle that we need to work on.
right,
If we try to change that, most of the things can be taken care of. But your partner doesn't know what you are going through, and you cannot assume that your partner might know it. Because what goes
Absolutely.
inside you, it's only you. Many times you yourself don't know what's going inside you.
Right.
But talking to your partner, even if you feel, I don't feel like going to office today, just talking it out, just communicating the message. Because if you have a concern, or if it has been happening for a longer period of time, your partner can, because if you are into it, you won't be able to recognize it. But your partner or people around you will definitely figure it out that something wrong or something off. They might not know even what it is, but there's something that is missing, that you are not the earlier person. There's something
Right.
wrong in you, or something missing, you're something really irritated, or you're pissed off, because the behavior changes. Because of the stress, the behavior changes. And stress is the one of the most uh, crucial, and most of the time the commonest thing that hampers the relationship, the intimacy. Because their work life has been so stressed, we have been traveling, they have deadlines to meet, and just 9 to 5 job, everything adds to it. And when you come back home, you are already exhausted, you have nothing to offer to your partner.
Right.
Right. So in that moment, the partner in itself has to be a support. If the partner being at home, also a woman can also go through a lot of mental health issues because of the family or the extended families she has to deal with whole day. Because one of the problems which I often get is, whenever I come from, like whenever I come home, I don't want to talk to anyone, because I have been doing this for the whole day and I just want to just relax and just scroll my phone.
Right.
These are the words which men often say. And what, on the other hand, what women say is, after such a long day, I have seen him and I want to cuddle him, kiss him, or even just talk it out. How was your day? And he's not in the mood to talk, and I feel neglected. But they are not saying the right words, or communicating in the right way is important. Because
Right.
we start blaming them. You don't give me time. Instead of saying,
Mm.
you don't give me time, you can say, when you don't talk to me, I feel neglected.
Mm.
It's in this way, when you communicate, it's not you blaming the other person, it's you expressing your feeling about how you are feeling with it. Because when the
Right.
other person knows how you are feeling, definitely if someone is concerned, will try to talk it out, and will tell you, just give me half an hour, or just give me 2 hours.
Yeah.
It has been a very tiring day today. And definitely when you communicate in this manner, without blaming, without shaming the partner, then the compatibility and the alignment is always there.
Right.
Because if you start using sarcastic words or throwing tantrums and all that, he is already tired and pissed off the whole lot of things that has been gone in the office, which you know hardly even know.
Absolutely.
And that becomes a real trouble, a challenge for a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This,
I, I, like, so clear communication and setting boundaries can go a long way actually in
yeah.
building and forging healthy relationships and intimacy.
Yeah, like
But
taking out the time for each other is also like, if even if you're working for 6 days or 5 days,
hmm,
taking out time for your partner is should be a priority. This is where
right,
we lag. Like in Indian families, we don't prioritize uh, couple timing. We often go
right,
with the family, with the kids, with grandparents, with extended families, and all that, and we
right,
hardly give time to each other. Just two of
right.
you sitting on a beach silently is also lots of talking
Yes,
without saying anything.
yes,
Yeah? That's the deeper level of intimacy which we are talking
yes,
about, which works in long term, which
right.
strengthens your bond with your partner.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, what I hear is that if the ask is clear, then there is no confusion. But
Yeah,
if, you're indirect and, what your needs and your desires get transformed into, questioning the other person or blaming the other
that
person,
person, yeah.
then ultimately it's going to lead into an argument, which will end up, rupturing your emotional intimacy as well as, in turn, impact the physical intimacy as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, like in this scenario today, as you mentioned that in our Indian families we have, we don't give importance to couple time, And there's this a lot of chatter around the fact that, women these days don't really want to get married or to have children. And, there's also a lot of modern, I would say terms in the modern dating culture, that we have hookups, we have casual relationships. So we are seeing that the scenario is changing drastically, in our society. So do you think that there are certain myths around intimacy, or there is a lack of understanding around the topic, or some misconceptions that is breeding this?
Breeding what?
The, change in scenario and the culture.
The culture is because what has happened over the years, that we have been empowering women for such a long time, and we haven't empowered our boys.
Yes.
So if the girls are here now, the boys are still there where they were. Earlier we were here. Now we are
Yeah.
here. And boys were still there and are still there.
Right.
So because that's why it is very difficult for men to match up to the women. Because if you see, nowadays women have become more masculine in nature, more outgoing, more doing things. Okay. Now, how they address themselves is, men and women are very different from each other. Okay. So when we empower women, we do not mean that we have to surpass men.
Mm-hmm.
The equality is there. Like, you have a different identity and you have a different identity. Both together, we are bringing something very different to the table.
Right.
Okay, but what happens is the whole culture is running after, like, they are competing with men. We are not there to compete with men. Equality doesn't mean that we have to overpower men. That's not
Right.
equality. But this has been the context of the current generation, or the content flowing around, is that, like, feminism and empowering and everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But this general context of what equality means, having your own rights, doesn't mean you need to surpass a man where the man stands. You are a different identity. A man is a separate person. You are a separate person, and you react differently. And each and every person, whether it's a man or a woman, it has a combination of both masculinity and femininity. If a girl is working, that doesn't mean she is masculine and she doesn't have a feminine side. Both, a single person has femininity and a masculinity. So it's just the dance of that masculinity and femininity within the couples.
Right.
Now, what happens is, now women have been outgoing and doing everything that men used to do,
Right.
like earning and providing and everything. But men are still there, and they feel most of the time they lost of their own identity. Like, what are they there for?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
everything, like, we as women have grabbed. And now they have identity crisis, like, where do we stand? So when you say that women don't want to marry these days, it's not because they don't want to actually marry, or they don't want to have that romance in their life, or don't want to get intimate with someone. It's just that their standard of thinking, like, they can manage everything on their own, and men
Right.
not improving their skills in just
Right.
they're doing it only through providing.
Right.
It's not taking care of the child. It's not being emotional involved with the child, or be in the household chores. This is something, because if a woman is earning and doing the household chores, it's really becomes really difficult and takes a lot of toll on her mental health, because of
Right.
because if the woman of the family is mentally healthy, stable, relationship healthy, everything is going to go well. Relationships actually impact your job, your profession, and everything around.
Right.
So that needs to be taken care of it a lot.
Absolutely. Like, this also raises a question for me, that all of this, starts from mental health and then brings us back to that circle of the need where we need to work on our mental health. and where we need to understand ourselves, where we need to, heal ourselves from our traumas, from our experiences,
Yeah.
so that we can actually understand what we are doing and why we are doing and what are
Yeah.
our needs and desires, and, to be able to communicate it clearly. So we stay balanced, our masculine and feminine energy stays balanced, and we are able to, kind of flourish and
Yeah.
lead fulfilling lives. But do you, how do you feel about the concept of self-esteem here? Does it actually, all of this bring down our self-esteem, which in turn again is the reason that, people don't really embrace body positivity
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah. The
any
body
any
confidence
such
and
things?
everything, that all boils down to the self-esteem of a person. Yeah, definitely. And it plays a huge role. Self-esteem is how you estimate yourself.
Right,
And if someone feels that I'm not good enough, I don't look good enough, I don't earn good enough,
good enough.
these are the things that build your confidence and self-esteem. Like most of us have been through this, not being like self-confident or having a high self-esteem, but it's a skill that slowly been developed through time, working
Right,
on ourselves. And embodiment is something which really I find is important. Embodiment is when you listen to your body.
right,
You listen to how your body is trying to communicate it to you. That is also one way of uh, having a body confidence. Like if you are in a library, you will be able to hear the lightest whisper, what your body is trying to tell you. But if you are in a crowded place, you'll not hear that voice. That voice will be so feeble that that will surpass all the voice you are hearing.
right,
Right, so your body itself is giving you a lot of information about what's okay. Like even taking a minor decision, it's intuitively you can understand what works for you, what doesn't work
right.
for you. But you have to be that much connected to your body, because your body can sense things far more than what your logical mind cannot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we are not taught embodiment from, because the distortion of the embodiment happened from a very young age.
Right,
Suppose when we are having something, like if our parents are feeding us, and we say we don't feel like eating, but the parent says no, you don't know how much you need to eat. I'll tell you, I know how much you're supposed to eat. So what you're doing is you're suppressing the body signals that the child is having. So
right,
now eating is only one thing which 4 times a day you eat. And if it is
right.
happening every time, and for say 10 for 12 years, this has been constantly like happening, then what do you think that body signals are going to be suppressed? Like we stop
Absolutely.
listening to our own body signals, right? And many times when people in an adult relationship, I just don't get it why it's happening. How are you going to get it? Because your connection to your body is lost. How
Right,
you won't be able to listen to what your body is trying to tell you. They are
right,
so mixed up with different emotions of fear, anxiousness, anxiety. Everything is so
right.
mixed up that they are not able to even segregate what it feels like or describe how are they feeling.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
embodiment is something very important that which each one of us need to practice, because body tells you several like suppose even if you're in a danger, even if you don't have any logical answer to it, there's something wrong, but still the body can sense it way before your mind can.
Yes,
So body is always there working for you. So having that connection with your own body is very important, and embodiment is something which every person should practice. And because they can see the difference in them when
right,
they practice embodiment,
right.
can see the difference. Just
And
standing in front of your mirror naked also, because first time when you stand up naked in front of your mirror, you don't like your parts of your body. Whether
right,
you feel there's a stretch marks, it's a pigmentation, I feel dark here, it's flabby here, And it's not the way the industry is telling us a body should be
Right.
muscular, leaner, thinner. You're not going to
Absolutely.
like your body. But when every day you keep looking to that body in the mirror, slowly and gradually you will be used to seeing it. And after that, you'll just not have that idea it's looking so, because slowly, when you're continuously doing it for a month, slowly, subconsciously, will start accepting your own body.
Right. Absolutely.
There was this lady who came to me, and she said, when I stood in front of the mirror, I just couldn't see myself. Like, I hated my stretch marks. It looked so ugly. Like, just she couldn't stop like talking about her own body, and she was talking so negative about her own body.
Right.
When you are speaking about your body, who is the one who's listening? It's your own body.
Body. Yes.
Yeah. And after doing this practice for say 2 months, she came to me and she said it was a magical experience. Now I see my like stretch marks or scars as I have bare 2 children.
Yeah.
And that's empowering.
Yeah.
The perspective shifts, and how empowering is you seeing your body or the scar in your body as something, the pain and everything that you have been through, but the after reward you got because of that. Every pain leads to something better after that.
Right.
So the whole shift of a perspective from I just hate my body
Right.
to I feel so good about my body. That's the
Right.
most empowering statement a person can tell to yourself.
To yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, body is your temple. And,
Absolutely.
if you love it, if you nourish it, if you nurture it, it's going to give you back 10 times
Yeah.
fold. But if you are doing the negative self-talk, as they say, that words of encouragement help you bloom, while words of criticism just bring you down, you know? So, of course, like every other psychological concept that we talk about, we've learned today that intimacy itself also has a lot of biopsychosocial factors, right from what we have been told while growing up in our environment, or how we perceive our bodies, or whatever concerns that we see, stretch marks or pigmentations or flabs, or our mindset that, I need to be a certain way because the billion-dollar makeup industry or the fashion industry set a standard. So, like, when Kareena Kapoor became size zero, like, people were running after it, but they didn't realize that it's just a false anecdote.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's just it's either US 4 or UK 6 or whatever, whatever number. It's just made to make you look and believe that you look good.
It is made to make you feel bad about your own body. Only then you are going to buy those products.
Exactly, exactly. So that defines your narrative. I'm sorry to say that, yes, if I'm size zero, I am sexy, I am hot, and of course, I will look
Desirable.
great. Yeah, I'm desirable. And if not, then okay, I'm average. But I guess you're right. Women need to be very sensitive towards themselves, and so do men. Both the genders need to
Yeah.
be equally
Yeah.
sensitive towards
Exactly.
themselves and towards each other, so
Yeah.
that, of course, we can actually forge healthy relationships and intimacy and feel good about ourselves
Yeah.
and our relationships. Right. So thank you so much, Jaya, for your time today. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure hosting you and having you with us here on our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Priza, for having me. It was wonderful having talk with you.
Thank you so much.